All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Trella Live. Should be able to hear me and see me pretty well. I know last week we had some technical difficulties, but we think we got that all squared away. So I'm excited um, because I like my new setup. I feel a lot more comfortable where I am. Cameras won't get knocked over, mics are working. So it's a good, pleasant day in Trello world. So for those of you that are joining us, welcome. Thanks for checking us out. Um, Feel free to comment, ask questions, jump in the chat. Let me know where you're from. I can see that there's some people that are already here. Thanks for joining and spending your time with us this evening. So, what we're going to cover today is obviously we're going to talk about Raspberry Parfait. She's at Flowering Week 6.5. And then we're going to jump into some nutrient deficiency issues that she's currently experiencing and how I go about trying to figure out how to revive her and get her back up to her, 100% capacity. So that, I've got a little bit of a method that I like to use, and I want to share it with everybody because I really want feedback. I want to know how other people handle these types of things. What do you think might be going on? She's looking better than she did a couple of days ago. So she's kind of turning that path and looking good. She's got nice color, I have to say that. But for those of you, let me back up for a bit because for those of you that may be new here, don't know who I am, don't know what the deuce is going on. My name is Asia. I am one of two co-founders, CEO here at Trella Technologies. I'm also a home grower. Before I got into doing Trella, was growing my own plants and working on a couple other projects, and then uh, had an issue that a problem that I needed to solve, and decided to come up with a solution to solve it. So this is it. This is it right here. TrellaGro LST, which is our low stress training system. It's designed to make the most out of each individual plant. So to grow one plant as big as possible. So what you're looking at right now is just one plant. Everything filling that space, one plant in a 2x4 grow tent. So what we did is we wanted to show everybody how this works. So before we got into flowering, we actually showed what she looked like in veg. For those of you that maybe didn't catch that, you definitely should check out our um, our Instagram page. Let me just show you that real quick so you know where to go to see how we got to this point right here, because obviously this didn't just happen overnight. Growing plants takes time, takes love. So um, we've been tracking this grow trial and sharing it on social media, sharing it on Instagram. So if you're wondering what she looked like before, go to our Instagram at Trella Tech. For example, you can see this one right here. This is the very beginning. This is the same plant that you're looking at right now, in her very beginning phase, in the veg phase. So what we did is we started out with one plant and we grow it in our TrellaGro LST plant training system. And what it will do is it will grow the plant sideways over time, slowly and methodically, very gently, grows that plant sideways, lays that plant on its side. And that way, all those side branches can stretch up to the light. So this is the beginning phase. And then what will happen is this plant will grow towards the screen over time. Here is a little bit more of what she looked like a little bit further down the road. So a few days, a few weeks later, it was actually a 40-day process to go from the beginning all the way to filling this space. But this is, kind of halfway through the process. This is that same plant just growing sideways, filling out that space, and then all those side branches will stretch up towards the light. And then go all the way up to the top. This one here is really kind of at the end, when she got all the way to the end, and you can see the branches are starting to stretch up towards the light. So we set this up in our veg station, which is not the same station or area that she's in right now. This is our flowering station. We started her in a veg station, and the veg station is just a 33-inch deep vertical growing space. That's all we had. We only had 33 inches to work within that space, and we grew the plant sideways, and we actually put this over my desk. So what you're looking at on the screen right here is a plant growing sideways in a very tight space over the top of my desk in a racking system that we constructed, really to show people how we can control the height. It can make use out of a lot of, out of a really small space, and you can grow one plant sideways and really get a lot from it. So this plant here that's on our Instagram feed is the same plant right here that you're looking at. This is the same plant in the flowering phase. So we grew this one plant all the way across sideways. We let all the branches stretch up towards the light, and now we are into flowering week 6.5. So if you're just joining in, welcome. Thanks for checking us out. Jump in, ask questions. Don't be shy. Let us know what you think. We've been working on this for quite some time. We're always making revisions. We're always, improving the design, and we are looking for caregivers and community farmers. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But what I wanted to talk about today was this issue that I was having with this particular plant right here. Let me just remove and show you what I mean. So this is um, a leaf that is not green, obviously discolored. Now, I'm in the flowering phase, and one thing that I've always kind of struggled with when it comes to the flowering phase is how the leaves will change color over time. It's a natural part of, the plant's process, is that as it gets later in the life of the plant, similar to what happens in October in the fall, the leaves change colors. The leaves always change color. So that's part of the process. But when they change color too drastically or too early, I get a little bit concerned. And this is what I noticed. I noticed that some of my leaves were changing colors very quickly, a little bit too soon, in my opinion. The first time growing raspberry parfait, so I kind of said maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but this doesn't look right. She also looked a little. This is about a week ago. She also looked just a little tired. I don't know if any growers are out there know what I'm talking about, but you know how like sometimes you go into your garden and your plants, they're what I like to call praising the sun. The leaves are just stretched, way up. You could tell they're excited about life. And then sometimes you go in and your plants look a little like either tired or underwater or just stressed. She looked a little stressed, and her leaves were changing color way too fast for me, way too fast. So I got a little concerned. I reached out to and this is one thing that I've always kind of, had to rely on research in my resources is I'm not talented enough, not yet, to look at a leaf and immediately, without looking at some sort of a book to double check myself, immediately knowing exactly what the nutrient deficiency is. There are some people that can look at plants and go, oh, that's magnesium, or oh, that's calcium, or oh, that's phosphorus. No, no, I gotta look at the leaf, pull out my books, and like look it up. Um, so I shared this picture. I shared a picture of the plant with, a friend of mine, and she said phosphorus. Maybe it's phosphorus. Now, I am I was kind of shocked to think that it was one particular nutrient. And here's the reason why. Let me give you a little bit of backstory about how we're feeding this plant. So I normally, when we grow in Trella, we normally grow in using hydroponics, which usually involves some sort of a, nutrient solution that's like a three-part solution. You put it in the water, and it pretty much does a really good job as long as you control the pH of allowing your plants to grow healthy without any nutrient deficiencies. That's typically what we did. But for this particular grow trial, we wanted to do things a little differently. So one is we used an air pot with soil. And I wanted to, without throwing too many variables all at once in this grow trial, I wanted to find a nutrient solution for soil that was kind of, something that someone had already tried and tested and could, kind of, give me a recommendation on. So I went to my local hydroponics store, talked to the gentleman there. He swears by his formula. He swears by it. He gave me his formula. This is, and if you want to know exactly, actually, if you want to know exactly what we're using, if you want to know the type of lights that we're using, if you want to know, how we have this whole grow tent set up, go to last week's live. Albeit there were technical difficulties in the beginning, so I put little chapters in there so you can just skip through the nonsense and go right to the grow setup. So if you want to know exactly how this plant has been grown, the nutrients, the lights, all that, Definitely go back to our past lives for more on that. But so I went. I had a recommendation from a gentleman. Now the only I took his recommendation, but the only thing I did not fully take was that he said at the end of his flowering period he likes to add some synthetic things to it, which some people would qualify as PGRs, plant growth hormones, plant growth hormones. So I just knew that I didn't want to do that. I did not want to add that to the mix. I wanted to try to stay as clean as possible. So I did not take his recommendation for adding in some synthetic stuff during the flowering phase, and instead said, I'm just going to stick to the base recipe and go from there. And what I decided to do was to go pretty light at the beginning of the flowering phase. So I went light with the nutrients, and I think that might have also been one part of the issue, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure. So what I needed to do next, and this is, one of the things that my friend recommended, and also one of the things that um, you should always do, is to measure the pH of your soil. Measure the pH of your soil. Now, to do that, the best way to do that is to mix water or a nutrient solution and check the pH of the water that you're putting into the soil. Let some of that water run off, gather that runoff, and then check the pH of the runoff. So you check the pH of what you put in, and then you check the pH of what is coming out, and you want to make sure that it's in a good range based on whatever nutrients or fertilizers that you're using. So for my case, my recommended pH is somewhere between 5.5 and 6.5. Um, and I measured the pH going in at 5.8, and the pH coming out was around 5.3. So I'm actually a little low. That was one concern that I had, but not super high, because I thought that we were going to be really high because I couldn't. It looked like, from what my friend suggested, that it might be a phosphorus issue. Looking at it again, I thought maybe it's even a magnesium issue as well. It looks like it's multiple things going on here. This is just one leaf example, but there were some leaves that had brown spots. So I felt like I actually had a nutrient deficiency that was kind of spanning across multiple different nutrients. So let me just show you why pH matters when it comes to these nutrients. So here we have a chart. In this chart, let me just give the people props where this came from. Deep green permaculture. Deep green permaculture. So there you go. So, uh-oh. Hold on here. You should be able to see all of it now. Let's see. Okay, that's better. So, looking at this chart, across the bottom, there are different pH values. So pH stands for parts hydrogen. And depending on your pH value or how much hydrogen you have, it changes what nutrients the plant can actually uptake or pull in, or, kind of, have access to. And this chart is pretty cool because it'll tell you, based on different pH, what different nutrients are available to your plant. And this particular chart is specifically for soil. There are other charts that happen to also be for like hydroponics as well. But this one in particular is for soil, and that's what I'm using. So this is the chart that I needed to look at, and you can kind of see, if based on the manufacturer and that made the nutrients, they recommend somewhere between 5.5 and 6.5. And if you kind of stay in that range, kind of closer to the 6.5 side, you can pretty much get a good amount of all of the nutrients. You get a nice balanced amount. At 6, it's a little low, and then 5.5, it's even lower. But I always say, go by the nutrients, the nutrient manufacturer specifications, more than anything, more than this chart. So I'm definitely trying to make sure that I'm aiming close to 6.0. So I'm a little low, I'm a little acidic. And what I'm doing, what I wanted to do was to add a little bit more of my nutrient solution to kind of bring that pH up just a little bit. So I've got her closer to 5.5 now. Um, but the other thing that I was thinking about, uh, because like I mentioned, it seems like there's multiple nutrients that are missing, almost to the point where maybe she just is underfed. Maybe she's just hungry. Um, and I thought about it a little bit, and I said that's quite a possibility. Two things here that might be driving her to be hungry. Um, One is maybe I'm not giving her enough food, so that's obviously one potential problem. But the second problem is this: when you're lighting your plants or providing sunlight to your plants, that sun, that radiation comes down, hits your plants, and all that, radiant energy kind of transfers to the plant and creates photosynthesis, the process of photosynthesis. So what drives photosynthesis, or what drives the plant to kind of, you know, drink, eat, drink and produce, drink, eat, produce, drink, eat, produce, is the sun. The sun is the fuel. The sun is the pedal on the, and if you're thinking about this from the perspective of, let's say, a vehicle or a car that you're driving, your foot on the gas is giving the car more fuel. The intensity of the sun is giving the plant more energy to process. But the thing is, you're pushing on that pedal and there's fuel that needs to be coming in, or maybe there, or the car requires other things. It requires air in the tires, not just, you can't just push fuel into the car and expect it to run if other things are not correct. So for example, if you've got, a car that doesn't have enough air in the tire and you're trying to push that vehicle to perform at 65, 70 miles an hour, you're going to wind up damaging the car and or damaging yourself and someone else. So you got to slow it down. And similar to a plant, if I'm going to push this plant that hard, if I'm going to, have a lot of light intensity hitting on this plant, and then I don't feed her the proper nutrients, it's almost like driving a car on, with no air in your tires. You're really, pushing that vehicle way too far, and you need to slow it down, stop, and then repair the issue and then drive again. So the first thing that I always do when there's an issue of some sort in my grow, the first thing I always do when I don't know is I turn down the light intensity. I turn down the lights up, or I lift the lights higher so that the light intensity isn't so hard, because we're pushing her fast and we don't know what's going on. So the best thing you could do is ease off of the gas, ease off the brake, slow down that photosynthesis just a little bit until you could diagnose what's really going on. So that's the first thing that I did. And I did that, and about 48 hours later, I could already tell that she was a little bit more relaxed. She wasn't as tight and stressed. I don't know how to explain it unless you're a grower and you've had that experience of growing plants. You can tell when you're, just by looking at them, when your plants are just tired, stressed, missing something. And I could see that she kind of was, she was feeling a little bit more like herself. And then I looked at that nutrient the nutrient bottle, and I said to myself, well, this gentleman that recommended this nutrient solution, he's adding all this extra shit during the flowering phase. I'm not adding all this extra stuff, which means I got to up my base. So what I also did was I increased my NPK across the board just a little bit, like 20% increase, and gave her a lot more water with a proper pH, and kept the lights from 100%. I brought them down to 80, and she seems to be a lot happier. She seems to be a lot happier than she was a few days ago. So, um, we're thrilled. I'm thrilled. We're getting very close to the finish line on this plant. She's at week 6.5. The anticipated harvest date is around September the 12th. And I'm really looking forward to that. We want to make sure that she ends strong on a good note, and we get as much yield as possible from this plant. So here she is. She's looking a lot better than she did a few weeks ago. I think it was a situation of, one, undernourishment, a little bit of a acidic pH problem, and pushing her too hard with the lights. These lights are pretty powerful. They're old school what people will call blurples. They don't look blurple right now because I have them. I have the red and the blue turned down so that you can see the plant a little bit better. But again, as I mentioned, if you want to know exactly what I use, the lighting system, the setup, the details of this particular setup, go to last week's live, and you can check that. You can check that out. But yeah, this Raspberry Parfait, she's looking a lot better. With I think we got that nutrient thing figured out. So we just have about 2.5 weeks left until harvest. So yeah, if you have any questions, uh, please let me know. In particular, if you are a caregiver or a community farmer, to some extent. And when I say caregiver, let me just be clear. When I say caregiver, let me just be clear. I don't mean licensed caregiver. I mean caregiver in the sense that you grow for other people. You probably grow for yourself. You may consume, for your own purposes, but if you grow and you give a lot of what you grow away to other people, if you're, a quote unquote caregiver or what some people would consider to be a community farmer, we're looking for you. We're looking for you. We're looking for you. We're looking for you. We're looking for you because we want to put this technology into the hands of people that are caregivers and community farmers first. Um, we're switching things up a bit. I've got some announcements that I'm going to be making very soon. So if you happen to be a caregiver, quote unquote, which means you grow and you give away, not, truly donate, you truly grow to give away to someone else, or you support, your friends and family. Like I know a lot of you out there are your friends and your families connect. Cool. If that's who you are, and you want to try your hand out with a TrellaGro LST system, um, definitely make sure that you check out our website. I'm going to put a link here in the comments in the chat, and then also if you happen to catch this, later, here's how you can join. We're calling it our Grow More with Less program because you got plant count limits, and you got to grow and have a pretty good yield per plant. Especially if you're growing for other people or supporting, a community, you got to be pretty smart about how you grow, and you need to get as much from each plant as possible. And that's what this is, really helpful with, is to help you train your plants consistently so that you can get more yield per plant, and definitely, uh, you know, do a lot more than you can when you don't train a plant, or even if you're struggling to train your plant and you need some help and you got, a lot on your plate, or you travel, or you have a busy lifestyle. Lots of reasons why people might need help. Again, this is not for every grower. This is not for every grower. If you like training your plant, if you love scrogging, if you have the time to do it, day in and day out, sweet. Good for you. Awesome. This is not for you. If you need some help for some reason, whatever that might be, and you're a caregiver and a community farmer, we're looking for you. That's who we're looking for. That's what we're looking for, because we're trying to grow more yield per plant, overgrow and share. Overgrow and share. That's what this is really all about. So if you happen to be one of those individuals, definitely make sure that you apply for the Grow More with Less program. That's the way that you're going to know about more when things come out, because we're trying to do this at no or incredibly reduced cost to you. As a caregiver and a community farmer. So this is not for everybody. This is for specific individuals, because they need people that need to do some overgrow and share damage, and really help people understand the importance of local farming, not just from a food perspective, but also from a plant medicine perspective. Growing local, getting your stuff local is key, and it's also key to do it from somebody who you trust, or that is growing clean. So that's who we're looking for. So yeah, this is Raspberry Parfait, week 6.5. Again, in about 2 weeks, we're going to harvest this one. So next week we'll have another live, and then probably I'll check the trichomes to make sure, but probably the week after that, I'm going to chop her. It's time to bring her down. And then we're going to have a special trim party as well. So we got more in store. I know people are waiting to see what the yield is on this one. We're definitely going to make sure that we document that and share it with each of you. So stay tuned, um, and follow along. Again, check out our Instagram. That's where a lot of this stuff is located. Check out our YouTube lives, even our YouTube videos. We got some stuff there. We're putting together a Patreon. We've got this Grow More with Less program going on. So if you are a caregiver and a community farmer, we're looking for you. Let me know. Let me know. All right. Matt, peace and love, y'all. Until next time.